You ever been in a conversation that is so good that you lose track of time? Next thing you know, you're about 3 hours in. Well, this podcast is not that long, but today I got to talk to Andrew DaCosta, the genuine person behind the Instagram page of Pilot Drew. We get to share so many topics that we talked amongst ourselves that we want the whole audience to be able to grasp this. We talked about pilot's identity. We talked about struggles. We talked about mental health. We talked about health and fitness, of course. And we talked about the true purpose behind the social media and what we're trying to provide for other people. This was an awesome and genuine episode that I get to really get to know Andrew DaCosta and what he stands for. Enjoy. Welcome to the Fit Aviators Club podcast, where aviation, fitness, and mindset meet to improve the balance of your health and quality of life in aviation. This is your host, Fernando Contreras, and let's get to it. Andrew DaCosta, man, thank you so much for joining here in the Fit Aviators Club podcast, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me, Fernando. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome, dude. So I just want to start off first. Congratulations on being on a legacy airline, man. How does it feel?
Thanks. It's surreal. You know, I still to this day look back and like how did this happen? Even like going through training, I'm like, is this real? Did they really pick me? Am I supposed to be here? But now that I'm starting to get into the flow of things, just consolidated flying the 220, just getting through those first 100 hours. So now I get to enjoy myself. The schedules have been really good, and nothing to really complain about. Just super fortunate, super happy, and yeah, you know, it's a dream.
Really happy for you, man. That's incredible. So how are you liking the 220? Tell me about that.
I love it. I genuinely love that airplane. Coming from the Embraer 145, great airplane in itself, but the 220 has auto throttles. It has state-of-the-art equipment, those massive screens. We have VNAV, so we can actually shoot. Going on approaches and all these different things. It's the plane does a lot of the work for you. Just so much more. It's so much better for situational awareness. Overall, it's a wonderful airplane. I really like it. And one of my favorite things about it, it's got a window in the bathroom. It's pretty cool.
No way, dude. Yeah. That's awesome. That is great. You know, sometimes you need a little view in there. And, you know? Exactly. Well, that's cool, man. I totally agree with, you know, I flew the 145 also. And let me ask you this. Does it make you more situational aware when you're doing all that work in the 145 or when you're having a lot more, you know, automation?
You know what? I think automation could be your best friend, but also, at least in the 145, I was very, you know, not to say that I'm less into it, but being on the 145, you're really like making sure that, you know, you're on speed. You're making sure that you're going to make the next gate, especially like on a star or if you're on a tailwind, let's say like the J Fund 2, like going into Boston, things like that. Those are always like the big things to be cognizant of. But the cool thing about the 220 is we have you can see the vertical path of where the aircraft is going to go. You might get sometimes the airplane might be able to slow down in time, and that's one of those things where you have to be able to manage your airspeed. Something else that I realized about the A220, it is a very, very slick airplane. It does not like going down and slowing down. As I'm sure you know, flying the 737, I'm sure it's the same way. But overall, it's been a great airplane, and you know, I'm really happy to be on it.
That's awesome, dude. I think that coming from an airplane that didn't have auto throttles and VNAV and all that, you have kind of like this mental, you know, gears are still turning in the background. You know, you're still kind of almost calculating the descent, see how it's going to do it. And I remember when I went through the 175, I was still calculating the descent just to make sure it's going to hit that, because all VNAVs are not the same. You know, the 737's VNAV is complicated, but once you learn how to use it, it's awesome. You know, you just got to kind of know what the airplane is going to be doing. But that mental math that you used to do on the 145 comes in handy when you're just
Oh,
like, oh
absolutely.
shoot, yeah, you know. And I think flying the 145 was a really awesome plane, super great, like transition jet from, at least for me, it was from flight instructing to, now bigger jets. But I loved it.
It
I
was a great
absolutely loved
starter
it.
jet. It was
Yeah,
absolutely great starter jet.
yeah,
Talking about manual flying, like that's really getting into it and uh, building hours on that airplane, like just being able to be like one with the airplane. It was a great airplane.
yeah.
I liked
Oh
it a
yeah,
lot.
I love the manual stuff. But so then let I want to know what was your journey like to get to where you are now? Where'd you go to flight school? How'd you start?
Well, I was all over the place. When I was 18, I wanted to fly airplanes, but I wanted to pick I went a more traditional route through college. I tried to be a civil engineer. I did that for a semester, realized I hated it. I went to community college after that for 2 years to build my experience flying airplanes because that's what I wanted to do. But in the course of those 2 years, I was only able to get my private pilot's license. We had like 3 airplanes for 40 students, so I was
Wow.
flying maybe once, twice a week. And you know how it is when you're flight training. You just got to get the reps in. You got to fly.
Hmm.
You got to fly. You got to fly.
Hmm.
So when I'm not flying, that's when it became more difficult. So I got discouraged especially after 2 years going through the rest of the curriculum, this 141 program, going through the rest of the curriculum, and just the only thing holding me back was the flying. So I decided, you know what, flying is great, but I want to go back into engineering. Did that for 3.5 years, graduated, became an engineer, did that for a year, realized, well, this whole 9 to 5 life it's not for me. I don't think I like it very much. So I put all my eggs in one basket. I went to ATP, got the rest of my ratings from instrument, commercial, multi-engine. And yeah, and then from there, I did odd jobs. I never flight instructed, but
Okay.
here I am 6 years later and flying for a legacy. It's a dream come true.
That's a journey, man. Damn, congratulations, dude. That is,
Thanks. Thank you.
hard work. And so you also have a engineering degree.
Yes.
That is absolutely amazing. See, I started out with civil engineer too, but I was like, nah, I'm not going to do this because I was trying to play baseball. I was trying to make it to
Hmm.
college baseball. I was trying to make it pro. And when I went to the counselor and she was like, yeah, you have to learn you have to take law thermodynamics 1 and 2 and like fluid
Yep.
mechanism. And I was like, how am I supposed to fit this with baseball practice?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people do it though. I'm just not that great at both.
I couldn't juggle it either. I tried. I rode in college for a semester, and waking up at 5 a.m. to go to practice. It just I was sleeping throughout the day, and I was showing up to classes unprepared and
Yeah.
super like tired. And I'm like I can't do both. So
Well, dude, rowing. I mean, if you're out in the sun, dude, that's a lot of work. I'm sure you get super tired off of that.
oh yeah, at least for me, when we started, I started in the spring semester. So
Okay.
and I only did it for a semester. But when I started, it was 20 degrees outside up in the Northeast.
Oh
So
hell no!
we did everything indoors. So we worked on the Concept 2 machines, the erg machines, the rowing machines that you see at the gyms, and
Okay.
we worked on technique and all that stuff and building the endurance. And then after a few months, when it finally started to warm up, we got to go outside, got to go in the boat, and actually learn how to row. And it is difficult, especially
Dude.
being in a boat with 7 other people and trying to
Oh.
stay in sync. And if one person is off, it's going to throw off the whole boat.
That's it.
And
Yeah, that's
Yep.
it. Dude,
Yep.
that's incredible, man. That's we went. We just did a little bit of rowing in canoe. Not really rowing, but we went on a canoe and just kind of did our thing in Montenegro. Jess and I, and dude, just her and I trying to get coordinated was like, all right, well, 1, 2, 3, go. It was
Yep.
not that easy, bro.
No, it's tough. It's really tough. But it makes you appreciate actually seeing it on the water and seeing everybody in sync. And when everyone's in sync,
Dude.
that boat moves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is really cool. It's a really cool experience to be a part of that and to move with everyone on the boat and be in sync. It's something special. But it wasn't for me.
I
I
feel you.
realized
Yeah.
early on.
Well, that's incredible, dude, because that's definitely a tough sport. I think that and water polo are very challenging. But so going back to remember when we were both at the regionals, there was one specific day when I was flying through Charlotte and you just happened to walk by and recognize each other.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that was cool. That's probably one of the coolest things about social media.
Yeah.
We became social media friends for what, like maybe a year before that point,
Yeah.
and commenting back and forth, some messages here and there, And yeah, one day I was out when I was floating outside of a Starbucks. I forget what terminal it was, but I'm like, hey, I know
Yeah.
that guy. And I was like, and then I went up to you, gave you a bear hug, and I was like, man, this guy's solid. this guy is as jacked as he seems online.
Oh, good, good, good. I don't want to disappoint people, you know. Well, dude, I thought that was a great encounter too, because, you know, a lot of people with social media, we get the opportunity to meet people all over the place and it's super cool. But when you have like this cool, you know, friendship that you have through Instagram, you know, through messages, and you feel how genuine somebody is and you finally get to meet them, I think it makes the experience that much more cooler. And, you know, and it'd be the start of a great friendship, you know, because the aviation lifestyle, you never know who you're going to become really great friends with, in what encounter, who might run by your life that you can possibly have a great friendship with, even if you don't live in the same place.
Right.
And
exactly.
And I think that's the cool thing about, one of the positive things about social media that is able to do this. So
I'm still waiting for a Miami overnight to hang out with you, though.
Oh yes, you know it'll be packed with a lot of fun things to do, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Go for runs on the beach or something. Try to keep up with you. That's it.
Yeah. Then go get an acai bowl after that, and then just hang out by the beach.
Get some authentic tacos. I love it.
Oh yeah. So speaking about Instagram and social media, you started this because by the time I followed you, you already had a pretty big following it, and I kind of wanted to know, like, what got you into the social media, trying to get it started, and what's the message behind it?
First of all, I look on to see the numbers, and I'm like, I don't know how any of this happened. I generally like went into it just posting. My account was private for a very long time, but I know before I got into flying again, and I was working day in and day out as an engineer, and I was like, I really want to fly airplanes. I followed a few. I think one was an American Airlines pilot. I followed a guy from JetBlue. I followed a few people in Europe. I followed Captain Joe. And I, looking through their stuff, it really just like, it gave me that motivation. Like, look, like what they're doing it's so cool. Like, I want to know what life of a pilot is really like, because there's so much you can read online, but to actually, especially if you don't have anybody who's in the industry and not knowing where to go, just being able to go on social media and just go through posts and go through people, like videos that people post, like it builds an understanding of what that life is really like. Granted, everything isn't, it's not always sunshine and rainbows, but you also, and posting negative things is usually going to give you a negative review. People don't want to hear people, if you had a bad day, people don't want to hear about it, because people see it as, oh, well, you're living the dream. And if you had a bad day, like, how dare you? Like, I would do anything to be in that position. Yeah. So I try to be as genuine as possible on social media. But going back to when I was still, before I got into the industry, just seeing everything that these people are doing. And it got me excited. I was genuinely excited, going post to post. And whenever somebody posted something, I'd get super, like, just get really into it and be like, this is really what I want to do. And it kept me going. So, once I started flying at my previous airline, I just started posting. I was just goofy, just being myself. And then something crazy happened. People started following me. I just, I don't know how it happened, but, now I get to look back and reflect on everything. And it's a lot of fun. I like posting videos. I like, learning more about the photography and the videography side of things, and trying to provide value to people. So if I can create a video that gives you a genuine look on what a life of a pilot is like, then that's the goal. So, and then I get to meet awesome people, I like you, like, get to do crazy things like this. This is awesome. Like, this is it's a dream.
Exactly. Man. There's so many benefits. And, when I first came across your page, the first thing that I noticed is this is a genuine person, really describing the reality of, like, just really being in the airline. And then 3, you have a good sense of humor. And so watching your stories, seeing your post, you can sense a good, like a good vibe. It's light, it makes people want to watch it, but it also comes across very genuinely, because you're just describing your day. Whether this happens, that happens, you don't only talk about the great things. You only mention like, hey, yeah, I got called at 3 a.m. That sucks, but hey, at least we're enjoying the sunrise and we're gonna do this, and you post really cool things about it. That's when I knew like, hey, this guy is a genuine dude, because you compare sometimes like another social media account that might only post certain things, because this is all about perspective from the viewer, right? And a lot of the times people who post like the own the page may think that they're doing something genuine, but you have to think about it from the viewer's perspective. If I'm only posting things where like it's great, this is awesome, like there's nothing else like this airline life, which there isn't, but there's nothing better than this, then like you said, the minute you post something bad about it, it might be like, oh, how dare you, like this nothing like this, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's all about, it's all about, at the end of the day, mindset and
Yeah.
perspective. I remember this is at my previous airline. We were delayed. This is like leg four, and we were delayed, and the captain and I were both like, it was wearing on us a bit, and we were starting to get a little frustrated with just the way that things were going for the day. And the ramper connected to the airplane and started talking to us. And he said, "Hey, like Andrew, like I recognize you from Instagram." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, man. Like, nice to meet you." And he's like, "Yeah, I just started flying. Like, I'm in the process of getting my private. Like, like it's like I'm really excited to like get going." And then it made me think, like, wow, like this person would do anything to be in my position, and here I am, like in a bad mood, like. And then
Right.
and then it like kind of sets you back. I'm like, wait a second, what am I doing? Like,
Right.
I'm getting paid to fly airplanes. Like, this doesn't get better than that,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, again, it's mindset. It's all about mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But two things there, man. Like, one, the power of influence. Like, you clearly had influence with this person who recognized you and is starting how to fly and just wanted to share his experience with you. It probably meant so much for him to be able to do that with you. But then also, too, it's kind of like, okay, the reality is it's the last day, fourth leg. We want to go home. Like, I'm getting kind of tired. It's real. That stuff is real. But just that action of the ramper saying, hey, I recognize you, I'm starting to fly, total change of state, total change of mindset, just like you said. And that's an incredible, incredible, humbling experience, dude. That's awesome.
It's so humbling. Anytime anybody like reaches out to me and sees me in an airport and just wants to have a quick chat, it's so humbling,
Yeah.
just being able to
Yeah.
share my experience with others and them being able to, come up to me and have a conversation. Like it's like, I love it. I love everything about that. Just being the aviation community is so small, but I
Mhm.
can see how lonely it can feel if you just getting into it or know nothing about it and want to see, the next steps or things that you can do, and just being able to talk to people. And yeah, it's a great feeling.
It is. And it also gives a lot of information to people who are upcoming, right? Inspiring pilots. And,
Absolutely.
there's this huge trend going along that, we're in a huge hiring wave right now. This happens every 25 to 30 years. And it's an incredible moment to be in aviation right now. But it always wasn't like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk with pilots who are more senior to us and have lived through the aviation ages, with when that 20 to 25 years there wasn't much movement. There were furloughs, there were recessions and things like that, and it always hasn't been as lucrative as it is now. A good point to mention is also for the people who are following and seeing everything in social media, is that it's not always going to be like that. And
Right.
some people get lucky. They catch the wave very early and they get good seniority. And when those things externally happen that we don't have control of, furloughs, etc., you still have the possibility to be employed. And depending on where you fall in that seniority, your quality of life is going to be a certain way for years
Absolutely.
or for months. Who knows? But it's a very important thing to address, that bonuses and quality of life, and it wasn't always like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I remember talking to a recruiter back in 2019, before the pandemic ever happened, And this recruiter told me that they were at a job fair and there was a couple of potential pilots, or, they're shopping around and trying to talk to different recruiters. And this recruiter mentioned the airline that they work for, saying like, "Hey, are you interested?" And those potential pilots looked at her and they scoffed and said, "No, thanks," and walked away.
Wow.
And it makes me think, like, and then what's funny is, when the pandemic happened, I'm sure there's some of these pilots who are like, "I'll take any job
Hmm.
because the first person to hire me, like, I'll go there."
Hmm.
And it really is all about perspective. I mean, you look back 20 years ago, and I feel like I'm not the person to really say this because I wasn't in that situation, but it wasn't unheard of to needing 3,000 hours to get to an airline, or having to pay for your own training, having to pay for your ATP, having to pay for your hotels. Just having the opportunity to get to an airline, to fly a jet and get paid to do it. People would have done anything for that. And for that reason, people were making very little money. Some pilots were on food stamps,
Hmm.
and they were commuting like these crazy commutes,
Right.
transcons and, and or having to pick up other work like outside of flying. Like
Yeah.
it was a very
Yeah.
real thing, and there is potential that we can always get back to a point. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, but
Right.
something like that could happen again. And if it does, like, well, what are you going to do? And that's
Hmm.
why I think it's important to have a backup plan. Like, I hope I never have to go back into engineering, but I know, God forbid, if I have to, like, that an option is there. But it really is about perspective. And I think you have to know where you came from and realize that, be careful who you talk to about certain things, because if you come in and you're bushy tailed, like wide eye, you're just starting at a regional airline
Hmm.
and you start, bad mouthing it, being like, "Oh, we should get paid more, XYZ." Like that captain that you're flying with, like, you don't know what they went through.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't know this, the suffering. You don't know the sacrifice that pilot went through. And I think that's important, is perspective. It's perspective and knowing where we've gotten and where we might potentially go, and just being thankful for the every opportunity that you have, and just try to take that in stride and try to learn from every pilot that you fly with on, how things have been and how things could be. And yeah, it's, that's it.
Yeah, dude, I agree because everything that you said is absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And you know, people come into aviation with different backgrounds. And my background, everybody in my family have been pilots internationally, and well, most all of them internationally. And dude, the things that my dad went through in international airlines, that was like welcome to the jungle. From one day to another, you could the owner of the airline just would leave
Hmm.
and take all the money and nobody would get paid. And now you're like, okay, well, what do I do? Right. And so I grew up learning all that. My dad kind of talked me through, okay, like these are the things that can happen in aviation, and you got to be ready. You got to be resourceful, because something happens, dude, where you can't keep your medical certificate, or you can't keep it, you get furloughed, whatever it is. What are you going to do? And a lot of
Exactly.
people that I speak with, when they get caught off guard by that, there's no plan. There's no plan in motion. And then when it happens, it's kind of late to start, because everybody's doing the same thing. Like
Hmm.
you have a great backup plan as an engineer. I mean, if something were to happen and you got to go to engineer, that's still a great paying career. Absolutely great.
I'd be starting at square one because
Well,
entry level, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
but
just
but
put me in an office because I'll figure it out, I guess.
yeah, but I mean, still, dude, you'll be part of a team that you're doing something with other engineers, and eventually it'll catch up, right? Rather
Hmm.
than if you don't have a backup plan. And the cool thing about with being a pilot is that a lot of the opportunities are endless. Is what other options you have a plan on the side if something were to happen.
Hmm.
You've spoken with so many pilots, and so have I, and anything from owning businesses to owning that and running this, and it's incredible the amount of things that you could do. But there's resources out there, and it's better to be well prepared when something like that happens again than not.
Right. What would you
So
say is the weirdest side job that you've heard of a pilot having?
OnlyFans.
Really? I was going to say, that's pretty risky.
That is risky. Nah, I'm just kidding. Dude, I actually, I don't know. I don't know. Most of them that I have heard have been like just business owners or, entrepreneurs that are just trying to start their own thing or open a franchise. But what about you? What's the weirdest you've heard?
Well, not so much weird, but a lot of financial advisors, like a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, you have questions about finances? I got you. Like,
Yeah.
I got a business for that. Someone who worked in woodworking, that's pretty cool.
Okay.
And I was like, hey man, you should get into TikTok. There's like a whole thing with like woodworking. He's like, I'm not going to go to TikTok. I'm like, you should, you never know what can happen if you go to TikTok.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But, there's power in social media, but there's also, some negatives to it, but you just got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. So what's your vision for your page moving forward? I mean, you have a lot of people who truly admire you and look up to you. And as the world evolves, so do we have to evolve with things that we post and things that we are trying to send a message with. So what's your vision for the page starting from now?
Well, it was interesting, for a long time it was photos, and then Instagram trying to compete with TikTok. We're like, we're going to push reels now. So that getting out of my comfort zone and starting to post videos, I've learned I really enjoy the editing process. I enjoy the idea of telling a story. And so realistically, like what I would like to do is like I put a lot of the money that I made from social media back into social media to create like cameras and lenses and software and courses to get better at photography and videography and cinematography. So I would like to eventually get into a place where I can work with clients outside of my social media as a freelancer for video editing or something like that. Just a fun little side hustle. But I want to be able to tell stories. I've said I was going to join YouTube forever ago, and I still want to get into YouTube. I just, I don't know what it is about their site hump of just post a video. But I guess I'm very much a perfectionist, so I want to make sure that it's perfect. But everything that I've read is like, just post a video, just do it. Like it'll eventually, like, just tell a story and just be authentic, be yourself. So I think eventually I want to transition to more quality over quantity. And just be able to tell a story, be able to inspire people to get into aviation, show people what it's like in this profession, and try to figure out a way to impact or get my message out to more people. Unfortunately, I get DMs pretty often, and a lot of them are the same questions over and over and over again. Like, how do I become a pilot? How do I do this? How do I do that? And sitting there and responding to every single person is very tedious. And unfortunately, we don't have enough time in the day to do that. But just figuring out a way to be able to tell my story. And I see some of these creators, I'll name some names like Paul. Right now, there's a guy who works for United. His name's Paul, and his page is My Layover Life. If you see it on YouTube,
great.
His videos are amazing. He's great at telling stories, and like when I watch his videos, I'm like, wow, like that quality is amazing. The storytelling is amazing, and genuinely good dude. And I just want to be able to do more things like that. So we'll see how things go. But for now, I'm just learning, just very much in the early phases of that. So how about you? What do you want to do?
Yeah, dude, I think what makes everything exciting to continue to deliver content is something that you have to be passionate about, but also continue to think ahead, right? Just like how you said, you want to get into the videography, cinematography, and all that stuff is just to provide better content, like how you're taking the money that you're earning now and putting it right back in. I'm doing the exact same thing, how I got this podcast started, and just because we want to truly deliver better content for people. My goal is to deliver information as much as I can to everyone so that they can make the best decisions possible on health, fitness, whatever it is. And I've gone from personally training people online to training aerobatic pilots to training airline pilots and corporate pilots. And that is just one avenue. The podcast is another one, and then eventually sponsorships will come in. But the main goal is for me to just continue doing what I'm doing, stay genuine, provide the content that's useful for people, and then see what comes along with it.
And can I just say, you're doing an amazing job with everything. Like
thanks, bro.
I've taken
Thank you.
I found so much value in the things that you post, and even when it comes to like my meal prep, I'm like, well, Fernando does it this way, so maybe I should do it this way too. Like I bought those what are those that material type bags that easily silicone bags, yes. Because it definitely saves so much space, and that Tupperware,
right?
It starts to add up space. Like you only have a limited amount of space. It's funny when I was at the regional, I used to carry, I think, like I don't know how they the page, like how they describe it. It's like 18 cans for like a Yeti container, like 18 can Yeti container, and it was obnoxious because being on a 4-day trip and trying to pack all that food for a 4-day trip, I had this massive Yeti cooler. And now that I'm at a legacy carrier, I was like, I probably shouldn't be carrying around this massive container. Like just like a nice subtle, lunchbox should be okay. But
right.
Trying to pack all that stuff it's tough. It's tough.
It is though. It is, man. And I'm glad you took advantage of that, because it really helps people bring more food because of the space that they save. And also, you're not like pulling a shoulder carrying all those Tupperwares inside that bag, Yeah. So it's I'm glad you took that advice. And a lot of people have. That's one of the most popular things I get about the posts that I make regarding the silicone bags. But I wasn't the one to invent that. I actually knew a lot of pilots who did it before I did it, because I was doing containers before because I was lazy. And I would put only my food already prepped, good to go, so that I could just put it in the microwave and then get it out and go to my flight. Mm-hmm. But man, I noticed that I wasn't taking enough food. I was under calories. Not that I count my calories, but I could just tell my energy just wasn't the same.
Right.
And when I was like, you know what? A lot of other friends that are also into fitness, that are also pilots, they're doing this. I'm going to try. And having an open mind about that, dude, changed the game completely.
So let's say you're on a 4-day trip. How do you make sure you eat enough calories for a day?
I don't know. I do it based. Tough. It's tough because I don't count them. If I did count them, I would have a way better idea. But I only know how much I burn because of the Garmin that I use. So I have an idea of how much I'm burning, and I have a sort of idea how much I'm consuming. But I don't think it's enough. I really don't think it's enough. And I try to bring as much as I can to fit in there. But sometimes you don't even have time to eat. Yeah. Sometimes it's normal. Like you can't keep like a perfectly structured eating habit in aviation. And if you do think that way, you're going to be led to disappointment, because it's just, you got to be able to go with the flow and, be able to fit in those meals when you can.
Just getting enough sleep sometimes. Like I've had trips that start at 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon. And by day 3, by day 4, you're starting, or like day 1, you're ending at like 9-10 o'clock at night, and then by day 4 you're starting at like waking up at 3:30 in the morning for a 4:30 report. Right. So even just getting enough sleep and tough. Trying to fix your sleep cycle.
So what do you do for managing rest? Because you also, I've seen a lot of in your Instagram, you take health and fitness very seriously, and you try to do it when you can and incorporate it in your lifestyle. So how do you manage rest when you're on your trips?
Big thing is definitely mitigating caffeine. I find that if I drink caffeine later in the night, obviously you're not going to be able to sleep or get adequate sleep. Another thing too, you can try, at least what has worked for me, is just getting a small workout, even if it's like 30 minutes on a treadmill. That generally helps, especially if I had a long day.
Really? Okay.
Even just trying to wind down, maybe like an hour before bed, just get off the screen. But I'm really bad with that. That's something that I'm trying to get better at, because I'm always on the phone, and I look at my screen time. It's like, I've been on the screen for 11 hours today. How did that happen?
Dude.
I definitely find myself consuming way too much content. And that's something in 2023 that I'm trying to change, is to step away from social media a little bit more
Okay.
and be more present. For the sake of my
Yeah.
girlfriend, I know she's said you're not very present. Like we're hanging out, like we're hanging out on the couch watching a movie. She's like, you're not present. I'm like, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah. How about you? How do you mitigate sleep?
Dude, it depends. It really all depends. But most of the time, just like how you said, I try to get my body to get in synchronization with the light. So everything about your hormonal circadian rhythm, trying to get like really dark 30 minutes to an hour before you go to bed. But like you, like I'm on the screen too. And, it's not just about looking at videos. It's not just about looking at content. Is like we're always learning. So we may be looking at something educational that the only time we have to do something that day is right at night, right before we go to bed. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've tried doing is like I'll start trying to like get my studying done, and then 30 minutes before I go to sleep, have chamomile tea, and then just like lower all the lights and just kind of like trying to secrete that melatonin, just tell my body like, hey, it's time to wind down and go to sleep. What I found is that when I go from like very hyperactive to I need to go to sleep, doesn't work. Like for me, I just can't do it. So I toss and turn a lot. I need that like winding down part. But
Mm-hmm.
when I also manage my nutrition, my fitness, it also involves, and all three incorporate with your rest as well. For me, if I work out late at night, I'm gonna be bouncing off the walls, dude. Like I'm gonna be like, let's go. I'm not gonna go to sleep.
Got that energy, got that high metabolism. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. But and also if I don't eat properly, I'll be feeling either too tired or too much energy. So it's really all a balance, and I kind of do it day by day. I really listen to my body to see how it's reacting and what do I need to do in order for it to be at its best, optimum working efficiency. And that sounds very easy, but it's so fucking hard because
Yeah.
there's a lot that you need to know about, not just about your body, but about scientifically what happens in your body. And, if I do this, and trial and error is totally fine to do as well, because that's one of the only ways to find out what works for you as well,
Right. I know the big thing for me and something that I've had issues with is if I don't meal prep, it starts from the very beginning. It starts from not, not giving myself enough time to meal prep, and by doing that, I start a trip, and now I'm eating like crap or I'm eating Grubhub or DoorDash or all these different things. And it's like, well, I want to eat something that like is going to give me comfort, because I always found food to be bring me comfort. So I'm
Right.
eating things that I shouldn't be eating on overnights, and then I feel like crap, and then that escalates to I don't really feel like working out today. Like I had a long day. I think I earned it to just like rest, and then it kind of cascades. It's like one with it snowballs,
Sure.
and it
Yeah.
starts from the mindset. So I think
Yeah.
big thing is to just try to mitigate your time correctly, and if you make one mistake, that doesn't necessarily mean that like you're done. Like you could
Right.
still eat salad with a high protein like chicken or turkey or something. There are options. Got to get creative
Right.
sometimes, but it's doable.
Absolutely. And you mentioned like it starts at the beginning, right? And it's the way I've mentioned that to other people before. It's just like the metaphor is a stabilized approach leads to a way better landing than an unstable approach, right? It starts at, your descent on final, and you're coming in, and the more stable that is, the more chances you're going to have a better landing than if it's unstable. It's the same thing when your body works the same way. You're trying to just have something stable, but everything around you in aviation makes it unstable. So
Mm-hmm.
you as the pilot, as you in control of your own body, those things that you can do to bring your body to more stable play a big role, no matter how small it is, because those little things add up. Little habits create big results. So that's usually what I tell them, and then they're like, "Oh shit, yeah, well that makes sense."
Well, to build on your metaphor, if you're on before you start the approach, you brief the approach, right? So
Exactly.
you're briefing the risks. So, well, what are some of the risks? Well, some of the risks
Right.
are if I don't have enough time to cook, then I'm going to be eating like crap. What's another
Yeah.
risk? Well, if I
Yeah.
drink too much caffeine, or don't get enough sleep, I'm going to feel like crap. Like it's a lot. Or drinking enough water. That's a big one too.
It's not that common to see or to hear that people are like, yeah, no, I feel hydrated. A lot of the time, not being able to rest, not having good hormone secretion, even weight loss is contributing with hydration. So your body performs way differently when you're hydrated rather than when you're not. And it's like water. I know sometimes water is kind of boring, which it is, but you can have like hydration supplements that just carry simple electrolytes and some that don't have any sugar. And by no means is this sponsored by this company that I'm about to mention, but
Liquid IV?
No. It's called LMNT or Element. It's Lima Mike November Tango. And I mean, pure electrolytes, sodiums, magnesium, whatever all the other ones are. I can't think of them at the top of my head. Concentrated in this electrolyte powder with zero sugar. Zero. And that's awesome. I think that's, it gets a little taste in your mouth, whatever. It's pretty good.
And you said it's called Element?
Some people pronounce it Element, but the actual name of the company is LMNT.
Okay.
So
I heard
they're really
a big
good.
one too is magnesium. Like we don't have enough magnesium, and it's very important to consume magnesium.
It is.
I've been learning a lot dating a personal trainer. She's taught me a lot.
Well, that's good. You got your personal trainer. That's awesome. Yeah. So, a lot of the times that I have a conversation and they're just like, what should I be taking? What should I, like, what are the things you recommend for me to like eat more, consume? Should I be taking multivitamins? Should I be taking this pre-workout, this protein shake? Like, all right, let's slow down before everybody thinks like this fitness thing is all about all this shit you can ingest to make yourself more fit. Mm-hmm. So first, get blood work done. Okay. The first thing that you're going to know where you're deficient at or what you need more of or what's happening is blood work. From there, you know what you're going to have to consume more of. And then from there, you research on quality companies and quality products that you want to ingest in your body. The pre-workout, all the other supplement stuff like pre-workouts and protein, I'm never taking pre-workout. I tried it once and that shit got my heart rate like crazy. I'm like, I am not fucking with this.
Oh man, you've never taken pre-workout?
No,
oh god,
dude, no.
I've been taking pre-workout. I've been taking pre-workout for like the better part of 12 years.
Your life?
But I actually just recently focusing more just on just drinking coffee for a workout because totally. Longevity, especially like I'm 32 now. Like I've been taking pre-working since I was 18. Like this isn't good. This can't be good long term for my body. So, I'm not focusing on being the biggest in the room, or I just want to be able to go up the stairs without pain, or without losing my breath.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but dude. So now you're dependent on it, though. Do you feel like you're dependent? You can't really have a good workout if you don't have that?
So I've, being away from pre-workout, I haven't taken pre-workout in probably like 2 months and just been focusing on drinking coffee before a workout. And I think I find that just being hydrated, having either, eating quality food that's so like away from being processed, just whole foods, and the occasional coffee in the morning, like before a workout, like that tends to do the best for me. Yeah. Do you like to do you prefer to work out on an empty stomach, or do you like to eat first?
I have no idea how I knew this question was coming. Like I think what you said was like setting it up. And I just kind of knew it was coming.
Because I find like if I'm doing a run, I don't want to eat. Like I don't, or if I'm like having a heavy lift, if I'm having a heavy lift, it's probably better to eat something, but I prefer to go fasted, but I'm sure you're going to tell me the opposite.
Dude, it really depends what your goals are, and two, what kind of metabolism is your body mostly functioning in, right? So like if you're doing endurance stuff and you're consuming mostly fats, then you're in a certain kind of like you're metabolizing fats. That's the first thing that your body's going to go to because oxygen and energy demand are the same. If you're going for heavier lifts and you're consuming a lot of fat, even before your workout, it's the energy might not be there, right? Glycogen consumption is going to go really quick, and your body needs oxygen to metabolize fat. So it really depends on me. It's like today I worked out fasted. I wasn't doing heavy lifting, but I wasn't going for so much endurance either. However, last night, dude, we went out to this place in Fort Lauderdale to get tacos, and I had a bunch of tacos. I came home and I had like another gyro that I made myself with some lamb and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
nice.
I
I'm
got
hungry.
myself pretty good, pretty good at calories that I know that this morning I would have some sort of enough glycogen to survive me through this workout, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I were to be squatting heavy today, though, I still would have ate fruits in the morning because I want that fast energy, like demand to be given to me when I need it if I'm lifting heavy. So it just really depends. But I agree with you. I'd rather go for a run fasted than not.
Do you prefer, let's say, like you're talking about a carb, like you go to fruits? How do you feel about oats? Do you stay away from oats and just fast metabolizing, just quick energy? Give me that sugar.
Yes, because it depends. Depends what kind of lifting I'm doing, right? Oats. I usually pack oats, overnight oats for my trips because I think that's fantastic. You put in some chia seeds, some flax. Yeah, they're easy.
Some protein powder,
bro. Yeah, exactly.
It's a power shake in the morning.
Yeah, dude. And what I found was that like I used to be putting the water before I left on my trip. I found that like if I put the water every night, it's so much fucking more efficient. Dude. I was like, what have I been doing this whole time? You know, like how do I fly a plane and not think about just putting water?
But that's the cool thing about, you find better ways of doing things, right? And that's what you promote on your page. Like that's like, hey, like I've been doing this for a while. This is what I've learned. And you like to share that with people. And I think
exactly.
It's a great thing, because a lot of people are like, I don't know where to start.
Right.
And it's like, well, you just cut out a lot of work for people if they really want to stick to a plan.
Exactly. But going back to your question with do I prefer like the faster sugary carbs? If I'm depending on my training and because my metabolism's fast and I have been exercising since I was fucking like 6 years old, my body is now used to like, I'll ingest some fruits. I'll get that super fast glucose because I'm going to use it for that energy. And I actually will eat fruits again after my workout. So for post, because you have glucose and you have fats and then you have proteins, right? These two, glucose and fats, are meant to replenish energy and give you energy. Some of it will be used right away. Some of it will be stored. Proteins protein's main goal is to synthesize muscle. It could be reverted to energy, glucose, through a process called gluconeogenesis or whatever it's called.
Say that three times fast.
Yeah, I'll try not to. It's you're making your body work so much harder. It's not the protein's role to do that, but it will do it to make your body survive. So if I consumed a lot of energy in my workout and I bring in that simple carb, it replenishes that energy, and then I'll have protein, and then that's going to go where it's supposed to go. And now I am kind of bringing these macronutrients kind of like where they're kind of supposed to go. That's just for me, for my body, with the conditions of me. If somebody who has maybe, some other underlying conditions, or they don't metabolize things exactly the same way that I do, you have to change your strategy, but you won't know unless you like go out and seek professional, advice.
Mm-hmm.
So
I find myself, I'm very carb sensitive. If I have too many carbs, I bloat. And it's interesting. Like my weight fluctuates like 10 pounds easily. Like, wow. Actually, what scared me last week is I stepped on the scale and I hit 200 pounds, which is the most I've ever weighed in my entire life. And I'm like, well, I haven't been lifting that much more, so this is a problem.
Okay. Yeah.
So and for a long time, lifting hasn't been fun. So I'm trying to revert back to a way to just fall in love with lifting again, fall in love with just being active and finding longevity in your workouts and lifestyle. And I found that eating healthier and just changing things up. Like I started a new regimen by this guy, Nick Bear, and this is only day 2, but it's been very helpful so far. and I weighed myself this morning. It was 191. I'm like, how do I fluctuate that much?
That's crazy.
I don't know, man. I think it's probably carbs or maybe, I don't know.
Could be water. It could be a lot of things. It could be a lot of things. But I mean, 10 pounds is a lot. How would you?
Maybe I was just full of shit.
I was just waiting for that. It could be that too, couple days going like, oh man, I haven't gone,
Every morning it's my routine. It's my ritual.
Good. Dude.
Got my games on my phone, Everyone's got the games.
Dude. Yeah, you got there's like a sole app category for that. It's like,
yep. Third page in, second row. There you go. Let's go.
Dude, so how do you maybe leave a little sage little thing going? So
yep.
Dude, oh man,
maybe play some calming music.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people have a lot of trouble with that actually, and believe it or not, a lot of the crews that I fly with, the people who do open up, they'll be like, dude, I'm constipated, man. And I just can't.
Enough fiber.
Not enough fiber, but also not enough water, dude. So hydration also helps a lot with that. A ton. You can actually have a lot of fiber, but if you don't hydrate enough, it won't do you any better.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, if you're struggling, drink a little bit more water, have a little bit more greens, and you'll probably start doing a little bit better. Also, running. If you run, that helps. Also, bowel movement, loosen it up.
Yeah, shake things up. Here's the thing that I find difficult, though. If you're drinking a lot of water, and especially us being in the flight deck, how do you stop yourself from having to go to the bathroom all the time? Do you just increase your salt intake to kind of hold that in?
I let the flight attendants know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm going to be a pain in the ass, but I'm probably going to have to bug you for 2 lap breaks. I drink a lot of water, and especially if I have my coffee and then drink water, my eyes start to float, dude.
Well, your legs are longer than mine, right? How long are your flights? Usually 4 to 5 hours. I see you at JFK down to the Caribbean. Do you see you a lot?
We did JFK the other day to Georgetown, Guyana. We've done Punta Cana to Dallas. It's long, but I definitely do two breaks. And the captain usually does 2 breaks too. So I'm like, oh, all right, good. I'm not the only one.
At least you're not the only one. Yeah. It's tough when you have a jump seater, though. That's when things get difficult.
Dude, you remember when it was tough? Remember in the 145? The walk of shame? Of shame, dude. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, for the people that don't know, the Embraer 145 has one restroom, and it is all the way in the back of the plane. So whenever you have to use the restroom, you have to literally say hi to every single face along the way.
Correct.
50 people.
And then the people who have flown on that plane often enough that know that the lab is back there, they'll see and they'll start counting. They'll start timing. Oh, and then they'll know what you did in there. You either took a pee or you took a massive dump. And then you got to go, right? So, dude, you're just like, I don't want to feel like I'm taking too long. I got to hurry up. I don't want people to think I just took a shit in the back of the plane.
There's a long line. There's only one bathroom, 50 people.
In one aisle.
Yeah, one aisle. Oh, that's the worst, too. Doing that dance to try to get around some people.
Oh, man. It's,
It was a great plane from a pilot's perspective, but a little tough on the passenger side, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. So let's get back to fitness stuff.
Yep. Sorry.
So how do you feel like you can make everything that you're trying new now as part of your life? Like you already talked about a mental shift, but what are some of the things that you could think about in the future to be like, all right, well, fitness is important, but how can I make it entertaining for myself?
It starts with, again, the perspective and mindset and also time management. I think one of my biggest problems for a long time has always been time management.
Okay.
Growing up, I would often find myself procrastinating. It's like, oh, I'll get it done. And that mind shift has kind of shifted in a way that, oh, I have to leave for a trip in 2 hours. I have to leave in 1 hour. It's like, oh crap, like I need to pack my food and do all these things.
Right.
But I think moving forward, what is important is to wake up with purpose, wake up with a plan, and whatever schedule you get, flying schedule, you kind of work around that. Or
Hmm.
if you find there's always, you always have an hour. And
Right.
even if that hour is like, even if you get into a hotel late at night, you can go on a treadmill for a half hour, for an hour, just move your body. Or if you have a 2 or 3 hour sit at an airport, like just walk around the airport, like move your body. Um, but I think transitioning forward, my plan is to really just take it a day at a time. And I think, if you have one bad meal, or you have a setback, like don't dwell on it. And that was my problem. Like I've had this pain in my left shoulder for a little while now, and I would find myself like lifting, and it would just be like off, and it's like, well, and I would get frustrated and be like, well, I can't lift as much, or I can't do this XYZ. And I think what the important thing to do, at least in my mind, has been to, well, do what you can and just try to fall in love with it again, stretch some more, and just try to find at least an hour every day, and just to stay away from processed foods and to eat more whole foods, and try to get more greens. Like
Yeah.
I've always been deficient in greens, but my girlfriend has this recipe for broccoli that's super easy. Anybody can do it. Just, and we use avocado oil spray. We don't use olive oil or Pam or any of that stuff. We use avocado spray, and I like it a lot, and it tastes good too. But just spray it, like broccoli, for example, spray it, salt, pepper, and Montreal seasoning. And that actually works really good. And the broccoli is really crispy and in a way that I actually enjoy eating it. I know my mom used to like steam it and put olive oil on top, and it just tasted soggy, and
Yeah.
it wasn't the best. So
Right.
just find foods that you like to eat, and everything in moderation as well. And again, just take it a day at a time.
Yeah.
So we'll see
So,
how it goes.
yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I'm going to tie in, human behavior psychology with this as well. Humans have psychological human needs that they must fulfill. And a lot of the times, you mentioned this earlier, you go to food for comfort. Everybody does to some extent, some point. When it starts to get a little like concerning is how much, and is that the only thing you revert to as comfort? But you, in this case, in this scenario, took a little bit of variety, a little bit of uncertainty in like, okay, well, let me try the same broccoli because that's not changing. The way that you're making it is changing. And now you just put yourself out there a little bit, put yourself a little bit of uncertainty. Am I going to like this or not? Boom. Oh, great. You loved it. Now you are able to incorporate something more, healthy in your nutrition, which is great. But a lot of people are very hesitant to, oh yeah, I don't like broccoli. Well, have you tried air frying it? Have you tried, all these other different ways that could possibly make you like it and change your lifestyle? So with that being said, we both, and a lot of people know that mental health, psychology, and fitness are very closely linked together. One affects the other because it changes your state. And by state, I mean the way your posture, what your thoughts are, how you're behaving, all those things are linked. And just by you changing, let's say, for example, changing your nutrition and starting to like greens when you didn't before, now has you in a state of like, well, if I'm eating a little bit better, I should probably do something for my body a little bit better in terms of physical activity. And if I'm doing that, then I know I'm also changed. So you start to create a positive pattern
Mm-hmm.
around that concept, right? Which
Absolutely.
which also contributes to how you manage your behavior around stress or things that are outside of your control. Do you feel that you're able to manage stress more efficiently or in better ways when you exercise than when you don't?
Absolutely. And I have found myself go down a rabbit hole of, where I have one bad meal and it becomes two, and it becomes three, and it becomes 2 days, 3 days, 4 days,
Yeah.
and then I see my motivation to go to the gym also dwindle, and then I start getting anxious because I'm like, I know I want to do this, but like, why can't I snap out of it and just be like, I need to eat better, and like, all the things in your mind of like what you need to do. And I think a lot of times too, people know the answer to their problems, they just don't want to face them. And I think it really comes down to, you have all of these problems or all these things that you want to figure out, but looking at everything all at once is a huge task. I think if you just break it down, instead of, you know, and you've been eating unhealthy, well, instead of just fully eating unhealthy, maybe have a healthy meal, or maybe just start incorporating more greens and or more whole foods, and then you'll find yourself, and especially if you eat a lot more greens, that you will be, your stomach will be fuller. And then, if you start being like, wow, this actually, like, I actually feel good, and being feeling good, you want to work out more. And just things like that. It really stems down to just taking things one thing at a time,
Right.
and building on those habits. And again, it
Right.
takes a while for things to become a habit. And I think, the longer you work at something and be mindful and cognizant of that, and try to at least do one thing every day, like, eventually, and what is that, you get 1% better every day, right?
Hmm.
And
Right.
and you realize, in the grand scheme of things, like, you're going to get substantially better if you just try little by little every day. and
Right.
and yeah.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's all about gradual, changes, or gradual, or even just adding things to your routine. You don't necessarily have to take anything out, because you might like something so much that might be bad for you, but you
Hmm.
taking it out, you're gonna regret it and go right back to it later on. So, adding or and gradual changes is huge for your lifestyle. But you mentioned something about problems, and this I learned from Tony Robbins when I took his courses to become an intervention coach. Do you know what the number one addicting thing in the world is?
What's that?
Problems.
Problems?
It's not drugs, it's not drinking, it's problems. Because problems, you can either have a good problem or have a bad problem. Okay? A good problem is a challenge. If we want to live a life where we're continuously growing, getting more successful and everything, we're always going to face problems or challenges that are going to make us have to perform better, step outside of the box, go into that uncertain world, and become more resourceful. And then there's problems that set us back. And those problems that sometimes set us back can sometimes create comfort in people. And when people start sharing their problems with you, you start feeling connection with everybody, that you're not the only one that has these problems.
Right.
And so problems have a deep psychological fulfillment of needs for people. And obviously in a negative way as much as in a positive way. It's all about how you perceive it. But I don't know if you've ever experienced this. And when I understood this with Tony, it changed the game completely. I found that I put myself in smaller problems that I know I could handle, when the problem that was big enough, I couldn't or didn't want to handle it at the same time. And I start going like, well, there's this big fire I got to put out. Is there any other little fires that kind of need to be put out? Okay, I'm going to go on those. I'm going to try to put those out. And you start falling into that pattern, and the big fucking fire doesn't get turned off, dude. And you still have that fire fucking lingering right there. So,
Hmm.
so it's breaking that pattern of like, wait, don't deal. If those little fires are not your priority right now, stick to that. And it's breaking that habit, dude. It's breaking that mental shift. It's not easy, bro, because you have to come to like self-realization of like what's happening. What are your thoughts creating a pattern and a habit of? And when you
Right.
break that, bro, and you go to what's really the problem, whether if it's in a negative and you're trying to make it into a positive, your life changes, dude. It's a little scary in the beginning because you have to step out. You have to go into this uncertain world that doesn't probably feel right in the beginning. But once you step in more and more and more and more, you get comfortable stepping into the darkness or stepping into something that you're not used to. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but bro, when I realized that, I was changed my whole game on perception of things, you know?
Yeah. What are some of the setbacks that you've had that you've been able, like you mentioned big fires and small fires. Like what are some examples of that you've been able to overcome?
Let's okay. So setbacks that a lot, there's different things obviously that people consider as a setback, but on a daily, it could be things of like maybe not being present or maybe being stuck because I don't know what to do with providing things for people for the fitness page or little things like that, and it's not a problem that you can solve overnight. So if I'm constantly thinking, how what else can I provide? Can I provide a service that will do the whole entire aviation community great for their health? And I have this idea, and then it's like, well, fuck, from to go from here to here doesn't happen overnight, right?
No.
So I'm just like, well, let me take on these other little things that I know I can have control with because I have zero control of from 0 to 100, right? I can't get to 100 right now. I have no control of that. And I'm not ready to step out into my uncertainty and maybe invest in something that I probably need to invest in or take the time to, study on something else because that's going to take time away from other things that are important in life. And so when I catch myself with that, I go, whoa, hang on a second. If you know that it's not going to be, if it's going to take a while for you to get to that achievement or that goal that you want to get, you need to plan it out. Have little goals that will eventually get you to this, so that those fires that you think you're good at turning off, make some of those your goals that you're good at upbringing.
Mhm.
And when you take what you're good at and just shift it to the left or to the right, and your whole perception of things just change. You know,
It's about, mindset. Just
mm-hmm.
something small every day.
Exactly. What about for you? What are some setbacks, and how have you been able to handle that?
I think you mentioned a good point. A big thing that I think a lot of problem have is comparing themselves with others. So at least looking from a social media standpoint, looking at someone being looking at the way somebody's doing something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really easy to be like, no, like what that guy's doing, and being jealous or envious of that, and instead of looking at a way in a way of like, what are they doing, and like, why can't I do that? Look inward and be like, well, what can I learn to get to a place where I can provide value and provide quality content, just
Right.
on the side of social media.
Right.
But outside of that, man, I've had a lot of failures, even in my career. A good example, going back to my engineering days, like in school, I when I was in school is when I realized, like, I think I want to fly again, but I'm not sure. Let me just get through this program. I nearly failed out of school. Like, the engineering program was very difficult, a lot more difficult than what I was used to. And coming out of high school where I graduated with a 3.9 GPA, like, it was, and I didn't have to try very hard, which I
Mm-hmm.
think was a problem. So when I got to college, I didn't, and again, time management was an issue. I didn't put the time aside, to really focus on my grades and my studies, and it affected me. It affected me a lot, to a point where I nearly got kicked out of school, and I really had to, you know, like when I got down to that last semester, they're like, "Hey, like, you have one more shot. Like, if you don't get XYZ grades, like, you're going to be kicked out of the engineering
Damn.
program." And I've never been so stressed in my life. And one summer I took 12 credits, and that was like, took like thermodynamics, heat transfer, vibrations,
Oh
like all these
wow.
very, very
Damn.
difficult engineering courses. And I
Yeah.
got C's. I got like C's in them, and that was enough to like get me by.
Wow.
And I always was always on the back end of that. So I graduated college with like a 2.5, 2.4 GPA. And at that point, I was like, I want to work for Boeing, I want to work for Lockheed. Like, no one's going to hire you like with that GPA.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is, I look back at those times, and the amount of stress, and it really set, I don't know, it's a reminder of, like, things can be tough, like, and they will be tough, but like, you're going to be okay. Like, you'll figure out a way,
Yeah.
you'll get through it. You just got to, keep your head up, and you roll with the punches. And to fast forward from there is when I started actually going through my flight training, I've had a couple of setbacks. The big one being failing my CFI. I double busted my CFI check ride with the same instructor, and I never made it out of the oral. The first time was after 5 hours. The second time was after
Wow.
4.5 hours, and at the end of the second time, and after giving this guy almost $2,000 in fees,
Hmm.
he said to me, he's like, "You probably shouldn't be a flight instructor. It's like you make a bad flight instructor." And I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You know what? You're probably right." And I remember being so angry and upset, going from never failing a check ride to, double busting this, and seeing all of my insecurities and all of my like, oh, well, like, what if this happens, like, come to fruition and come to life. I was like, whoa, this sucks. But out of that came the best experience of my life. Like, now leaving that program that I was in, having all the rest of my ratings except for my CFI, with the game plan being I'm going to become a flight instructor, build up my time, go to the airlines. I
Hmm.
now I have 200 hours of flight time. I'm not a CFI. Like, what do I want to do? Like, who's going to hire a pilot with 200 hours? And luckily at the time, I applied to every job that I could on this, I think it's climb350.com, just a pilot website board. And I
Yeah.
went to the low pilot section and I applied to every job that I could around the world, whatever would take me. And sure enough, this little airline in Saipan, Northern Mariana Islands, for those who aren't familiar, it's an hour north of Guam, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They got back to me and said, "Hey, like, would you like to interview?" So I did a
What?
Skype interview. Oh, sorry, my dog is here.
It's all good. It's all good.
Hi, Daisy. So we did a Skype interview, and sure enough, they're like, "Well, when can you come out here?" And I said, "As soon as possible." So 2 weeks later, I
What?
was on a flight from New York to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to Guam, Guam to Saipan, and I flew tourists around the islands of Saipan for Part 91 and Cessna 172s and Piper Warriors. Did that for 3 months, and then from there I moved to Texas and I flew pipeline and was flying a decent bit. I was flying 120 hours a month the next 8
Wow.
months. So from failing my check ride in January of 2016, or it was 27, I think it was 2017. January 2017, I had 200 hours. By March of 2018, I had 1,500 hours, and
Wow.
that's when I interviewed with my regional carrier, and when I got hired in April, and started the whole process by June of 2018. But
Yeah.
and again, you like, all of these setbacks made me who I am today. It gave me that
Hmm.
perspective. It made me realize, like, hey, like, things can be tough, but if you just stick at it and embrace the suck sometimes, and just focus on everything that you can do to get back up and keep going, and eventually it will work out. And that works with anything in your life. Like, if it works
Hmm.
with, like, fitness, if it works with, you want to do that thing, like, do it, like, or just work every day towards getting that. And that's kind of where I am now with social media. Working on just, like, every day building my skills, and getting more comfortable with, like, editing software, or like this camera settings on my phone, or maybe going out and joining a photography club. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much you can do. And if you have a dream, you can get there. You just got to work for it. You got to work. You
Right.
got to put in the time.
Right.
And if you work hard enough, you will get there. And everybody has setbacks, and that doesn't define you, doesn't
Hmm.
define who you are. You just got to move forward from that.
I agree. That's what an incredible story, bro. Like, for you to have that opportunity to go out there and fly, I mean, shit, with just 200 hours,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
crazy.
awesome.
It's crazy.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, that is the definition of, like, I truly believe failure shapes who you are. 100%. And you take failure and you have very different avenues you can take, and the one that you're going to take will greatly shape how you think, who you think of yourself, what you're going to do. Because what everybody talks about, dude, and everybody's like, yeah, you just always dream big and you're going to go to the dream and do that. But not a lot of people have gotten and thought about that dream, and then for some reason they can't make it. And then nobody ever talks about How do you deal with the disappointment? How do you deal with disappointment when you don't make what you've dreamed of, what you thought you could be? I mean, that shit happened with me, dude. With baseball, I ate, slept, breathed, fucking everything you can think of baseball because I wanted to become a professional athlete that bad.
What
My
was your position?
I started first in infield, second base, and then I went out to the outfield.
Okay.
That's what I wanted. I mean, I always knew I wanted to be a pilot, but if I had the opportunity to be a professional baseball player, that shit doesn't come around often.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
When the moment that I realized that like I failed at becoming the best player that I can be, or that I to make it to the pros, dude, I felt in this hole of just like I didn't think like if I was worth it enough, because I know I put in the work and the time and the discipline to be there with the pros. But I thought of like, damn, how do you deal with all this positive thoughts that you have about making it and then not make it? And there, right there, when you're at the fucking bottom, is where you find yourself, dude. And you
Yeah.
take that avenue. You take that avenue of like, and you said it earlier, which was great. You look at what you have accomplished. What is the best things that came out of that? And part of the reason why I have the discipline and the shape and the nutrition and the education and the knowledge of health and fitness is because of baseball. So if it wasn't for that fail, okay, if I didn't fail, I became pro, and I failed, and I'm now influencing and helping, creating a positive impact to people to better their health. And so what I'm trying to drive with this is that you're not going to make absolutely every single dream of yours that you have a reality. It's not every single one. You have the power to make the majorities of the ones that you can, but the ones that you don't, remember this: when the disappointment comes, really truly embrace the things that you learn from it, who are now part of you, that you can make something even bigger with it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah.
everything, I'm very much a proponent of everything happens for a reason. And I think you having your setbacks, maybe that's not that led you to what you needed to be in life.
Yeah.
You know, it could be
exactly.
a little woo woo to think of, but you know, I try to be positive thinking, and that like genuinely everything happens for a reason. What was it, injury that with baseball?
It was too many coaches trying to, they were like, look, for your height, for your strength and your dedication and everything, you should be like throwing a little bit faster or whatever. And they just try to fuck with my mechanics too much, man. And like, baseball's a mental game. And what stopped me was this, because I went to play 3 years later, dude, and I had zero fucking worries. And dude, I threw the fastest that I probably have ever thrown. I hit the hardest. But by that time, whatever, things happen for a reason, just like you said, bro.
You have to have fun with it sometimes, and when you're such in high stress environments, like you kind of lose the fun sometimes.
Dude, it happens.
Yeah,
and that's another thing that I input in my fitness, and it's part of my life. I have fun doing that, and one of the ways that I have fun doing that is because the way I program myself to the workouts for myself. I don't just do the same shit over and over again. I change my stuff every 12 weeks or every 6 weeks. It just depends on what I want to do. But that creativity is like for you, photography, right? It makes you want to get out there, take classes, do this, lens, this, that. It's great. It's a fantastic thing. I do the same thing with how do I want my body to perform, right? And that comes from within, dude. And you're like, hell yeah, I want to go after it,
Exactly.
So
I think the big problem with like getting into photography, there's always a new toy that comes out. Like how can I elevate? Like, if I just get that, it'll be that much better. And I'm like, no, you don't need that. You don't need it,
dude. I know. But look, dude, the photos you took in Zurich, man, well, it was in Zurich, right? Or you were in Zermatt?
Zurich and Zermatt. I think. Yeah, that was probably the coolest picture, and I'm still learning. Like, but they're like long exposure. being able to see like the whole city with like the mountain in the background. And what was cool in that moment, the mountain wasn't there. You couldn't see it in the naked eye. When you took that picture with like an open shutter and let the camera do its thing, like, you know, and to see to see it afterwards and be like, whoa, that was there the whole time. Like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Dude,
And just getting
incredible.
creative with it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's, you know, it's something that brings me joy, and something that, you know, keeps me, you know, I'm very fortunate that I have a little bit more time, with these schedules to focus on my, you know, my health, to focus on things that make me happy outside of aviation.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I'm just trying to stay productive, you know?
Yeah. You know, there's a big thing about everything that a pilot tries to do, and you're in a person and that what they think their identity is, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of a lot of times pilots think that their only identity is that you can fly an airplane, and you know, whether you know it now or not, you are so much more capable of doing way many more things. For some reason, they haven't done it, but the capability is there. But how would you say your experience has been with? Did you ever think that pilot was your only identity, or have you always had like, I'm a pilot, but I'm also this, this, this in life?
I think, for a solid, well, I was going to say for a solid 2, 3 years, where my main focus was getting to the airlines, my whole life was being a pilot. Going through training, that's like all you're thinking, all you're talking about every day. And for the first time, you're surrounded by peers who that's all they're talking about is aviation as well. And
Mm-hmm.
you definitely, you know, go into this mindset where like, this is my whole being right now is this goal. Like, how am I going to get to this goal the fastest? And you know, if you think about it, when you're around other pilots, what do you guys talk about? You guys talk
Right.
about pilot stuff, and that just
Yeah.
that always ends up happening every time.
Mm-hmm.
My pilot friends are around, and my girlfriend's around.
Right.
She's like, "Yep, there you go. You guys talking pilot
Yeah.
stuff again." That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a solid like 2, 3 years, my whole life was focused on one goal, getting to the airline. So that very much became who I was, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't focused on anything else. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sure, I still worked out and did this and that and the other, but like my main focus was getting to the airlines. I was so focused on that. And, you know, finally getting there and trying to find other things to do outside of aviation became tough. And especially when the pandemic came, I was like, whoa, all of a sudden I went from flying all the time, this being like who I am. People, you know, whenever I talk to anyone, be like, oh, you're a pilot. And you're like, yeah. And that's what you start talking about, to the pandemic hits. And you're like, oh man, like what am I going to do? Like who am I outside of flying? And that's when
Mm-hmm.
the interest first came of photography, video editing, all this stuff. So now it's just been trying to build on those steps. But yeah, we are a lot more than just pilots, and I think it's very much important to be a well-rounded person, to, you know, be able to get out there and learn things outside of aviation, because again, that there is more to us. Just being a whole rounded person, I think is very important for your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And people who, you know, who have families, like you often, you can get so immersed sometimes maybe in work that, hey, you forget that you're probably a great dad, or you're a great husband. You're a great, you know, if you do stuff around the house, you're a great handyman or woman, or great wife, great anything.
Mm-hmm.
And those things sometimes get overlooked because it's subconscious, right? Like, you know, you're a mom, or, you know, you're a dad. But in reality, it's like, you know, taking care of a kid is not easy, you know? So
Yeah.
like, you take care of a dog, that's almost like having a child.
It made me realize, like, do I want kids? Like this seems like a lot. You know, by the way, like the videos and the pictures that you and Jess take when you go on your trips, like they're epic. Like I'm like,
Oh, thanks,
all the
man.
stuff that they're doing, it's so cool. I definitely want to do stuff like that. It's a little tough with a dog. Luckily, my parents don't live too far away, so they
sweet.
love her, so
Yeah.
you can always drop her off there. But
Right.
yeah, you know, just trying to travel more would be nice. You know, trying to, you know, get used to those, actually use those flight benefits.
Dude, I mean, man, look, before I used to travel, and it wasn't as much as I did after I met Jess. Like, this girl
She's like a pro.
She is like a genius, bro, when it comes to like traveling, because it's like we like to travel pretty much the same way. Like, we're nonstop, and we try to make the trips as efficient as possible. And over the years, I've gotten accustomed to her way of traveling a little bit. That she's like, if the weather sucks in this place, we're gonna go here. And like, you know, we're in Norway at this point. Like, I'll take you back. We're in Norway, and we're like, fuck, this weather's kind of suck. And there's like a weather system coming through, like, you know, the west from Spain into Italy. Should we go east or west when we get to Milan? Dude, the day of, we're like, all right, we're gonna go west.
There's something fun about that, and I was gonna say, who's more spontaneous and who's more of a planner?
Jess is the more spontaneous, but she knows how to plan it really well. I need more of like a, what are we gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
But over the years, man, I have just appreciated and learned how awesome and how much more you get to see when I embraced her way of like traveling. And it, bro, it opened my eyes, and so much more fun this way.
No, it's a lot of fun. Although I do find that sometimes, like, there are experiences or things that you would like to see you can't do. Like a good example, when we were in Zurich, we wanted to go to the Lindt chocolate factory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they were booked out like a week in advance, or like a week and a half in advance. We're like, man, like if we had just planned this a little bit better, we could have, gone.
I agree.
It's things like that, But there's always other things you can do. That's not the only thing. But we're very fortunate just being able to travel, and that's the big thing. Like when I was in my previous life before getting into flying, like I found myself in this like little bubble of a world. It's like, well, I see the same faces every day, I do the same things every day, and having the ability to travel on a whim, it was, it's a luxury for us, and it doesn't always work out. Granted, flying standby, but when it does, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty nice, especially when you get first class.
Damn. Oh yeah,
Like you don't want to go back,
I haven't with my current airline. I have yet to fly first class. So I haven't gotten that lucky.
Yeah,
my parents did. They flew to London and they flew to fly first class. I'm like, how did you guys get to fly first class before I did? This is what?
Well, dude, they're your parents. They probably deserve it.
Oh no, they absolutely deserve it. I would be nothing without my parents. Like
of course,
they worked their butts off. Both my parents are immigrants. I'm first generation born in the States. So seeing like where my grandfather was when he was 12 living in Portugal, like he would, like my family are farmers, they didn't have much. And to come to the States and sacrifice and, build everything that they have. And then, getting all the opportunities that I have, I'm extremely fortunate. And, everything that I've been given, I try to give it forward to my kids.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Exactly. Jess's family is also from Portugal, from the Azores, but her family is pretty much the same. Like, like the way her dad describes, how it used to be when they were over there and when they came here. I was born in Venezuela and I lived there for 8 years. And when you come here, you're just so appreciative of the opportunities that there are in this country. And, you always want to pay it forward because you want the generation after you to have either as good as you or better. At least that's the way I was brought up,
Absolutely.
So it's like, it's very humbling and also really cool to talk with like-minded people like that.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. Perspective is everything, like coming from like where my family came from to be able to, like I carry my grandfather's, like before my dad was born, my grandfather left Portugal and moved to Brazil, and he worked in Brazil for 15 years. So my grandparents had my uncle, and then my grandfather left to Brazil and was sending money every year to my grandmother and my uncle in Portugal. And then after 15 years, he went back, and my dad was born, and then they moved to Germany, and then they moved to New York, and they moved to Philly. So they've been on a journey, but
yeah,
I carry my grandfather has since passed away. He passed away in 2007. But I have his passport from when he went to Brazil, and he was like no older than like 25. And I carry that with me. I have that in my flight bag, and I've had that with me ever since I started flying. And
wow,
it's like my way of like he's always with me. Got my angel, and but it's cool, just being able to see like everything that my family has gone through for me to have everything that I have today. And it's like, wow, like all this, it's hard to put into words, like, just how appreciative and to be here, and like, we have the best job in the world. And all we can do is try to pay it forward.
Right. I agree. Dude, very well said, man. If you have any advice, good habits for upcoming pilots, people who are, a lot of you probably say this a lot in your Instagram with people that message you, but what advice would you give to somebody who's starting flight school now? Dream is to either be in the airlines, corporate, military, whatever it would be.
Embrace the suck. No, I'm just kidding. The big thing, something that I had an instructor or a teacher tell me once. He's like, the biggest thing that he sees when people stop flying or stop, fail out of it, is they forget to look outside. And I think that's huge. Like when the first time you solo, I'm sure you felt it too. The first time you solo, you're like, wow, like I'm up here by myself. Like this is the coolest thing in the world. Like I am behind the controls of this airplane. I'm at 3,000 feet, like looking around, like this is insane. Like and that's like the coolest feeling, a little scary, but also like you trust the training and everything.
Yeah.
But, you gotta remember to look outside. Just remember what you're doing and what your goals are, and yeah, it's not always going to be easy. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have lessons where you're like going to question everything. Like, do I really want to do this? Like, I just got my butt handed to me. Like that was a really, really bad lesson. Or my flight instructor yelled at me because I didn't do things right this time when I did it right last time, or maybe I didn't study hard enough. Like you're going to have setbacks, and it's not always going to be easy, but trust me when I say that the first time your dreams are realized and you're actually behind the controls of a jet and flying for whatever airline you want to be flying for, and you're flying it and you're doing it and you're like, wow, I'm here. I did it. It's a weird feeling. I was almost sad when I for so long, my dream was be an airline pilot. And the first time I actually flew that jet for the first time, I was kind of sad. I'm like, wow, like this actually happened. But instead of like feeling happy and like awesome, I'm like, now what? And I think it's interesting because it's like, and I think as humans, like we try to look forward. I mean, like you always have like these goals ahead of you. And I think that's kind of a important thing to have, is to, well, what's next? Enjoy it, but stop worrying about always like, hey, like the future is the future is the future.
Right.
Focus on the here and now. Especially for people who are in training right now, like talk to your peers, like get to know as many people as you can, like enjoy the experiences, like, and like my brother, he's working on his private pilot's license right now. And he sent me a video of him he's in the control tower with a bunch of other kids, and they're all like joking around and laughing. And I texted him, I said, like, listen, like enjoy these moments. Like these faces, these people, like they're going to be with you like for the next 20, 30 years. Like you're going to be in a random airport and at a random time, some middle of nowhere. And you're going to be like, oh, there's Jerry. Like I haven't seen Jerry in 20 years. Like we flew together back in this place. Dude. And that's what's the coolest part about aviation, is just knowing that, you can run into anybody anywhere, like how we ran into each other,
Exactly. Dude.
Live in the moment, have those goals. You're going to have setbacks, but ultimately, if you just work towards it every day, 1% better every day, you'll get there.
That's awesome. That is solid advice. And I'm sure everybody who's going to hear this amazing podcast is really going to benefit from, everything that we've talked about. And that advice is absolutely amazing. If I was upcoming and I heard that, it'll prepare me a little bit more for like, hey, if you're performing good, something bad might happen that you didn't perform as great. It's okay. You're going to keep going at it. And, people who with experience saying it to other people who are upcoming means a lot. It means a lot to those people. So thank you so much for sharing that, man. I know, the whole point of this podcast is to inspire and impact people in such a positive way. And I think that every second of this podcast is doing just that.
Thank you for the opportunity to have me on, Fernando. It's been great.
Yeah, dude. So, well, thank you so much for being here, man. I hope everyone here gets to enjoy this podcast. I love learning more about your lifestyle, your goals, the way you think, mental health, your fitness, everything. You're an awesome and genuine dude. Don't ever change, bro. Keep the content coming because it is authentic, it's genuine, it impacts people, and you are truly awesome.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you. You keep doing your thing. Can't wait to have those tacos with you in Miami.
Let's show. And a workout after.
And a workout. There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Well, take it easy, bro. Great chatting with you.
Yeah, great chatting with you too.
See ya.